What's up, everyone? It's Ruby here, bringing you guys another video. This one is probably going to be a long one because today I am going to be telling you my vision, my perfect vision for the DC Universe live action movies. This has been in my head for um 3 years, 4. How long has it been since basically Snyderverse started? um it's been in my head for a long time, and it's been refined, but the general idea has kind of been the same. Now, if WB were to hire me, I do have a couple of options as to where I would actually take the DCU as it stands, but this is how I would do it if I were starting from the ground up. No one has been introduced yet. No one has been talked about yet. This is exactly how I, a comic book fan, a DC overlord, would make the DC universe come to life. Okay, I teased a little bit about this on Twitter. Also, I just want to throw in real quick that this is the conversation that I would have sent if I were in charge to Henry Cavill. I would have said, "Dear Mr. Cavill, we have been discussing the direction we want to take the DC Universe live action films, and have ultimately come to the conclusion that we need to restart the universe with a clean slate. We're envisioning a direction where we build the world around Superman. In order to do this, we would like to have a discussion about a long-term film agreement. But we want to make sure you're on board with this, as well as we are not sure at this time how long it will take. We would love to bring you into the office to discuss our plans. We understand this is a little different from what we initially discussed, but we want to find a way to make this work. You and Miss Gal Gadot will both be paving the way to a better, more comic book accurate DC universe, and while Ben Affleck will not be returning to star, he will be in charge of casting a new Batman to take his place, as well as directing his solo trilogy. Thank you, WB." So that's what I would have sent to Cavill. So basically, kind of a middle ground where we're not sure where we're going to take it, but we want to try to involve you as much as possible. Whether that actually is to play Superman, that can be discussed as well. Maybe what we ultimately discuss won't work for Cavill, but we can definitely find a role that would suit him just as much as Superman. And we don't need to tell the public that what we are trying to do. Because I think that is one of the biggest mistakes you can do, is to tell the public too early, especially right after you have announced a bunch of movies to be released, that what they're watching doesn't matter. Because I definitely think that no matter where we end up going with this, there's a couple of options that we could do. Okay, there's a couple of options that we could take. The first option would be to actually allow Zack Snyder to finish his projects and then lead into a Flashpoint movie. The Flashpoint movie would completely restart the universe and start us as to where we want to actually be. We can decide who to recast, we can figure out who will do what. Either way, we reset the universe and start all over again. Now, let's talk about where I imagine the DCEU being formed. Or I guess we could call it the Rubyverse, because this is my vision. Okay? This has nothing to do with what anyone else has ever said. And I think this would actually be kind of epic to kind of see. So, let's begin. The first movie I would do is Superman. Superman would be the first movie because we are wanting to focus on him first. He is the first superhero in comic book history. He is the first superhero of all time. So of course, we're going to start with the one who started it all. We're going to start with Superman. Whoever plays him, I don't care. But we're starting with Superman. And then, the first Superman movie would be about Lex Luthor and Lobo. So basically, we would introduce both a human problem and a alien problem. Something that Clark has to battle and something that Superman has to battle. So Clark would be battling with Lex Luthor and their disagreements on how they view the world, and Superman would be fighting against Lobo and how they want to rule the world, or not. Their morals, basically. Their morals will be at conflict. And we could still introduce some other villains in the same movie, like Metallo, like Toyman. There's certainly a few characters that we could kind of mildly introduce into the movie. Basically, the idea is that in this movie, Superman is questioning his morals and like what is the best approach to have when who should he stand for, what should he stand for. And at the end of the movie, what he comes to the conclusion of is that he will stand for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Yes, an American way is the classic saying, and I do think that in most cases it works. But I think if we're going for a global approach, this movie, this universe is going to be worldwide. So it makes sense that if we're including the entire world, that we wanted to be representing all of the world, all of humanity, every single person. You know, this is not a Kansas or Metropolis centered story. This is Earth centered. And so I think that distinction is very important. And so I would go with truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Okay. So basically, this encounter with Lobo would make Superman realize that he cannot fight this fight alone. He is not the only one in this fight. He can't be. So, he is going to make it his goal to find someone who can join him. I would then have the end credits scene, which teases the new Batman in his suit, looking down at Gotham as the bat signal is like lit up in the sky, right? So it's all lit up. It's all bat signal in the sky. He's looking down, and that's where we would end it. So basically, that it would pivot into Batman. Batman's film, I would simply call it The Batman or Batman. Batman Begins? The title doesn't matter. Okay? Maybe the Cape Crusader. The title does not matter. Okay? What matters is that Batman in this universe is already established. Most of his villains is already there. Most of them. Not all of them, most of them. So, I would actually have his first antagonist, his first villain, be Poison Ivy, because we're going to need her for a later date. So we need to introduce Poison Ivy, and so she's going to be the main villain for the first movie. And basically, this dynamic would also kind of challenge Batman's own morals and have it be because Poison Ivy, Pamela Isley, will be, trying to save the planet. Bruce is kind of all in favor of supporting Pamela Isley, but then Batman realizes that Pamela Isley doesn't necessarily have the greatest executions, and so he's a little bit concerned about her methods. And also we would introduce Catwoman's dynamic because she's going to be important as well. And you might be thinking, yes, we're going to be setting up Gotham City Sirens, but not right now. This is why it's very important to introduce Poison Ivy as well as Catwoman. So we're going to have that dynamic between Selina and Bruce, as well as Ivy and Catwoman, because gay. And so they're going to kind of be in this situation. And then in the middle of the film, or at least at some random point in the movie, there's going to be an encounter where they're kind of like running through a chemical plant at some point, okay? So he's kind of like running through. Maybe Ivy has like some people with her, or some workers are kind of working in the chemical plant. And so as Batman is running through chasing after Ivy, he accidentally knocks one of the workers over the edge, and he doesn't notice them. And so he just kind of falls into the acid, and that's that. Okay, he falls into acid, and we kind of ignore it. Maybe it's not even 2 seconds. It literally happens so fast nobody will notice. Nobody would notice the guy who just randomly falls into acid. Like, we would just kind of treat it like nothing happened. We would just make it like one thing. Like, if you notice it, great, you noticed it. If you didn't notice it, oh well. And then at the end of the movie, when everything is all wrapped up, there's a cut. Not the end scene, not the end credit scene, but there's a cut to a man who emerges from like the sewer or like the lake or whatever. And he's just like completely like pale. Some might even say that he is like white. And this man, as he like kind of like dries himself off, he like leans on like a tree or something, or like a wall, and he starts to laugh. And it turns into the Joker's laugh. So it sets up the Joker for a later encounter that will not be Batman 2. No, he's not going to be in Batman 2. No. There's another character that we're going to introduce in Batman 2. But we're going to just set up the Joker. Like, he's just there. He has no purpose. He's just there. And then the end credits scene would be a tease of Batman as he looks down at Gotham. And then this kind of the same shot. Actually, I would use the same shot. And so it would basically be the same shot as before. But this time, behind him, flies down Superman. And he's just kind of flying right behind Batman. Because he saw everything, like Superman saw everything that happened in Gotham City. And he's hoping that Batman is willing to work with him. But it is a little bit ambiguous. So Superman seeks out Batman, basically. That's kind of the setup. Like, Superman needs help. He wants to form a team or something, and so he kind of wants to have that encounter with Batman. and I think because Metropolis and Gotham are pretty relatively close to each other in the comics, I think it would make sense that Superman's first encounter would be Batman and not somebody else. Because even though he could have easily kind of encountered somebody else, it makes sense that it was Batman since their cities are like, it's like kind of like the Brooklyn and the Bronx, I think, where it's like they're right next to each other pretty much. It's very much hinted that way, and it's always kind of been that way. But the next movie would not be Batman or Superman. It would actually be Wonder Woman. So basically, we would kind of pause everything there. And we would move to Wonder Woman. Back in time. We would go back in time to World War II. And World War II, not World War I. It would be World War II. So basically it would be the Wonder Woman origin story. It would be the Wonder Woman origin story. You know, she's already kind of grown up. She's on the island, and she's looking for a challenge, like something. We're gonna have Steve Trevor kind of crashes his plane into Themyscira, and that gives Wonder Woman the way out of her world. Of her out of her island. So that would kind of set up a World War II movie, but it's not going to be a World War II movie. No, because the main villain is not going to be Ares. It's going to be Vandal Savage. That's all I'll say. If you know, you know. If you don't, well, you'll find out, I guess. If this ever comes to light. Yes, it would be Vandal Savage would be the villain. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. That's what would make it not. Also, in this, I don't know if I would sacrifice Steve Trevor. Because I like either one of these approaches. So either Steve Trevor dies in battle, kind of just like saving the world, and stopping Savage, or we keep Trevor alive, like he survives the war. Because then later we can have that moment where Diana visits Trevor, and we can see that Trevor is much older. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Trevor can stay alive, I think. Yeah, he can stay alive. They just wouldn't necessarily have a relationship, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I think if we have like an older Trevor later on, because I guess it depends on when the other movies take place. I don't know. I don't really care what happens to Trevor. There's like a couple of different directions you could go with that. But although I do kind of like the idea that Diana's first encounter with a decent human being is someone who dies. Because in the Amazonian world, right, death isn't really something that is like mourned necessarily. It's more like it's kind of like honored, especially if they die in battle. So I guess the way that you could see it is that Trevor dies in battle, which is an honorable thing to do as an Amazonian. And so Diana highly respects him as a soldier and a warrior because of that fact. Because she reminds him, or he reminds her of an Amazonian. And I think that can kind of be the idea that like some men are good men, and this man is a good man. Like he just died in battle, saving the world and turning, allowing the Nazis to be defeated. Actually, or I mean, I guess because it's World War II, yeah. I mean, Trevor could survive, but I think I'll still go with the first option, basically killing off Trevor. Um, because I don't think he's gonna be actually necessary to the overall story. But either way, okay. So then after that, the end credit scene would Oh yes, so the end credits scene would be introducing a new character, because so basically we would skip forward in time. End credit scene, we're skipping forward in time. Diana is now in the modern world. She hasn't aged a day because she's an Amazonian, but she's in the modern world, and she's maybe having an encounter with I don't know, one of her villains, probably Cheetah. We could have her encounter Cheetah or something, or maybe even just the regular kind of like, I don't know, burglary, I suppose, because at this point she's like wanting to be a hero, whatever. But then a winged woman would descend from the skies, like literally like an angel. And we don't know if this woman is like friend or foe, but this would be the introduction to Hawk Girl. For the very first time in cinematic history, Hawk Girl would be on the fucking big screen because she deserves it. And then the next movie, okay, so the next movie would neither be a Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman movie. It would be a Batman and Superman movie. Okay, so I think there can be basically kind of multiple trilogies going on. Basically, it's not necessarily going to be like the tight knit trilogies that are only kind of in their worlds. Or I suppose, technically speaking, we don't even need trilogies. We don't need trilogies. We can actually throw trilogies out the fucking window, because we don't want to kind of like, I think, well, I don't know. I would think about that. But, so basically, I would just call it Superman and Batman. Oh, wait. Actually, yeah, I would just call it Superman and Batman. You just call it Superman and Batman. That'd sell it out. Okay, whatever. Whatever the title is, okay. Whatever the title is, it doesn't matter. Okay. Because basically, you know, we would kind of resume where we left off, where Superman is meeting Batman for the first time. Except they're not really, they don't know what to think of each other. Like Batman, like Superman doesn't agree with Batman's moral stances. He doesn't like that Batman is like scaring the shit out of people. He has some problems with kind of like, and then Batman doesn't really trust Clark because like he's like like I don't know, and you know they kind of like duke it out a little bit. You could introduce Lex Luthor and I don't wait. I think the world's finest villains. I think I would make it Metallo, because it demonstrates that Superman needs kind of somebody else to help him. Because I guess it doesn't have to be Batman versus Superman as much as it is like in like the comics and like in like BVS. Like I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that direction. In fact, I don't think I would do it that direction. I mean, yes, they can fight, but not in a not the way that people would think they would fight. I think also, but either way, like the back half, or I guess not even the back half of the movie, but in the movie, I would also have Hawk Girl and Diana, and they would fight each other. And ultimately, Diana would win because she's just a better warrior. But even afterwards, it would be clear that Diana admires Hawkgirl's challenge, and that Hawkgirl will kind of go away because we don't need her right now. We don't need her right now. I think. Well, maybe we do need her. I guess she could kind of join in. Why not? Like, why not? I guess she doesn't have to go away. But that would so basically then the end scene to that end scene to the Batman and Superman and Batman, Superman and Batman. The end scene to Superman and Batman would just be like, you know, kind of Bruce and Clark just kind of like eating at a burger joint, like getting milkshakes and everything. Like, Clark could even be talking about how, like, this place has the best milkshakes. And then suddenly, like, an alien skull just, like, lowers. And, like, this ship is just, like, right there. And the kind of, the clouds are just, like, kind of, like, forming. Like the skies go dark and everything. And there's thunder and everything. Basically introducing Brainiac. So Clark and Batman, or Clark and Bruce and Clark, whatever, would exchange a look at each other, kind of like looking at each other. And they just kind of give each other a nod, because at this point they both know who each other is. So they kind of give each other the nod, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this. Let's do this together. You know, Bruce suits up, Superman suits up, and then they go. They just go, get ready. Well, actually, I would kind of end it at, like, Superman kind of doing the kind of taking off his suit and revealing, you know, the S underneath, kind of doing that classic scene, and kind of hinting at the next movie. So the next movie, I suppose, would technically be the first Justice League movie, but I don't think I would call it that. I don't think I would call it a Justice League movie because we're not at that point yet. We're not at the Justice League yet. But we're getting there because the next movie, we're gonna toss the names out the window because I don't know. I don't know what I would call these things. But the next movie would have Superman, Batman, Hawkgirl, and Wonder Woman, because they would ultimately come together. Or maybe Hawkgirl does go away. You know what? No, I got it. So at the end of, like, World's Finest or whatever, we have Hawkgirl has to go away. Like, she has to kind of, like, report back to somebody. So she kind of, like, goes away. So she's not there. She's gone. Hawkgirl's gone. But Wonder Woman's still kind of in the city. So she's the one who sees kind of, like, Brainiac's ship and, like, okay, so whoever this is, they're not friendly. We need to stop him. So she goes, she meets Superman and Batman in the next movie. So it would be a Trinity movie. Maybe we would call it that. Like, we'll just call it the Trinity. the Trinity. That's what it's called. Shut up. But it'd be the Trinity. So basically the Trinity would just be a Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman movie. And it would be about them opposing Brainiac. But, you know, there would be other people in the neighborhood. So, in that movie, I would introduce a red blur. Like, at some point, like, basically, when they're fighting Brainiac together, there would be, like, a red blur that kind of, like, through the scene, and kind of helps them do damage and everything, but, like, they would just keep, like, running, And at first, Diana and Bruce think that it was Clark who did it, but Clark would be like, "No, I didn't. I was busy like doing whatever." And it would basically we would not explain what that red blur was until like the next movie, where we would do the Flash next. We would do the Flash next, because that red blur would be the Flash. But the thing is, none of them know who the Flash is. We don't know who the Flash is because it wouldn't be known yet. And the great debate right now between comic book fans and DCAU fans is whether or not the Flash should be Barry Allen or Wally West. And I, being a DCAU fan, would 1000% make it Wally West. Redhead Wally West. But I could also agree to making it Barry. Or here's the kicker. Okay, so we introduced like this mysterious red blur, right? We don't know who it is. Batman has the feeling that it's Barry Allen because he already had an encounter with the Flash previously. Wait. Wait, I just got an idea. What if in the first Batman movie we just see like a random like red blur somewhere as well? Not just setting up like, oh my god, we see a random red blur and we, so that would hint that there is like the Flash. Oh my gosh, wait. What if in every single movie leading up to this point, there was a random red blur at some point during the movie, but we never explained it until now? Because that red blur would basically be us showing the speed of the Flash. Like, he's so fast that nobody knows he was even there. And we wouldn't credit him. We would make him be uncredited because we wouldn't need to cast anyone at this point because we can't even see him. We can't even see him, so we wouldn't credit. Maybe we would make him an extra or something. Or maybe we would kind of do like the red blur was this. If people read, because that would make people read the credits because people were gonna be like, what the fuck was that? And like, oh my god, this is getting crazy. Okay, so random red blurs. But we wouldn't do it a Flash movie. We wouldn't do a Flash movie yet. We would do a Green Lantern movie because we need to establish both John Stewart and Hal Jordan. Both of them will be in this universe because why not? People keep questioning whether or not it should be Hal Jordan or John Stewart. Why not just be both? Just have both of them here. They can tag team for but honestly, I would go with John Stewart because John Stewart is better than Hal Jordan. I'm sorry, he's just a better character, and we can do more with him. I like his origin better because with John, he's for those of you who don't know, John is ex-military. He is a veteran. He was trained in the Marines or something like that. He was trained in the Marines. Like, he's literally a military guy. He's a military guy. So he's very stern. He's very strict. Like, he's not like a fun character necessarily, but he is fun. He's very fun. But yeah, the next movie would be Green Lantern, I think. Yeah. So, but we wouldn't. Because I think at this point we have Green Lantern because we don't want to do an Abin Sur repeat, And then we also we don't really want to go the Sinestro route. I don't think we don't want to go the Sinestro route, or Sinestro at this point it has already been established. So I wouldn't like do like a Sinestro kind of like turning bad or whatever kind of thing. I would just who would be the villain for Green Lantern? I guess I would make. I mean, we could introduce like the Red Lanterns. Honestly, I think what I would do, because people don't know people don't know Jon Stewart's origin story, right? But we don't necessarily need to explain that, do we? We don't really need to explain Jon Stewart's origin story. He just could be someone. I think I would just make it, you know what, I think I would make it a Flash and Green Lantern movie. I don't know, that one's still kind of in the works. I haven't really figured that one out yet. Oh, you know what? I figured it out. Oh, I know. So basically, it would be... So basically, you know, because Green Lantern, he has to go, like, off-world and stuff. So his business... He would be kind of called to Mars, where he has to deal with this white Martian situation. And during that movie, we would meet Martian Manhunter. And so, basically, we would have Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern in the same movie, kind of just, like, meeting each other. Yeah, because that would make sense, because then he would... John would bring... John would bring John Jones. John would bring John to Earth. Or maybe Superman helps? That would be too much. Would that be too much Superman? If we have like Superman and Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter? Yeah, I don't have this much far planned out. But either way, you know what, let's just say we would, like, this is something that we could work out, like, in the writing room and everything. But basically, I would introduce those characters at that point. I would just introduce those characters at that point. I'm sure that there's a few comics that you could pull from, but I don't know. Either way, by the end of the movie, so basically, what I forgot what I was saying. So the red blur, Batman thinks that it's Barry Allen because he only knows Barry Allen as the Flash. But it turns out he will meet Barry Allen too. He would talk to him and be like, "Yo, is this you?" Or no, basically he would go to Barry Allen and he would be like, "Hey, thanks for the assist." And Barry Allen would be like, "Assist? Huh? No, dude. I was like on the other side of the world. What are you talking about?" And then Batman would be like, "Wait, so that wasn't you?" And then Barry would be like, "No?" And then it would be revealed that the red blur, or the Flash, is actually Wally West. Dun dun dun. So you might be okay. So these are the characters that we have established. So we've established a lot of characters during this process. We've established Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, the Flash, as well as Lobo and Vandal Savage. So we've set up quite a few villains at this point. So I think we would lead into Justice League at this point. Yeah, we would lead into Justice League. We would lead into Justice League. We have the 7 core members. And also, so maybe it's not Barry Allen because he could have probably put up kind of the costume. Maybe he's not using the costume anymore. Well, I mean, I think because Wally and Barry are in 2 different cities. So there could just be 2 Flashes in the world. But nobody knows that there's 2 Flashes because nobody ever sees him. So no one would know that there's 2 Flashes. They would just assume that it's the same person. That would make sense. So you kind of have anomalies of Flash appearing in 2 places. Once you could even have rumors where the Flash, he was in Kansas and then he was also in China at the same time. He's going in 2 different places. He's all over the world. And so people would kind of almost concerned about the Flash because they don't know that he's actually just 2 people. They don't know that he's actually just 2 people. But then, we have the 7 core established, and so their first encounter of a villain, I think, I guess technically speaking, Brainiac was the first encounter, but now that we're really established, I guess maybe the White Martian the White Martians come to Earth, and so that's kind of why John is kind of in this fight too. There's a number of different ways that I could take this. I think for the first movie it would make sense if it was in Justice League, the Secret Society kind of thing, where there's just introducing a bunch of villains kind of just teaming up with each other. So Lex Luthor is paying all these people to be on his team. Because once they're united, it's kind of hard for them to have their solo, to continue doing the regular movies, because now they're together. You would be well, okay, so why not just bring this person into this situation and have them deal with it as well? So for Batman, he's part-time, right? He doesn't actually want to be in the Justice League. He wants to be part-time. So we can actually make that a thing. So maybe the person who gets the trilogy is Batman, but the others kind of just have their individual movies, because we don't need to do a trilogy for everyone. If we did a trilogy for everyone, we would have 36 individual movies, which would be way too many. So I think the only person who needs a trilogy is Batman. Because so basically what I was saying is that Batman's trilogy would be, so Poison Ivy first. The second movie would establish Harvey Dent. It would not establish Joker. Joker would merely just be a rumor at that point. He would only be a rumor. He would not be the main antagonist. And then, Batman 3 would be about the Joker. Introducing the Joker and everything that he's done and everything that he has been doing. And I think during this trilogy of movies, we can go from Robin to Robin. We can pass time a little bit. Well, I think what we would do is that we would have Dick Grayson already established. So Dick Grayson has already been established. And so during these movies, we would actually have it be Jason Todd. We would have it be Jason Todd. because that's going to set up the third movie. The third movie, which would retell Death in the Family. And that's how we introduce the Joker. Because, I think it's perfect, because we don't really know who the Joker is. At this point, we don't know who the Joker is. We think he's just some random, like, mob lord or something, mob boss. And then, Jason goes on a search for Joker, and he gets himself in trouble. Like, Jason thinks that he can take the Joker on his own, but he cannot. And ultimately, Jason ends up dying to the Joker. And we would just leave it at that. We would have Jason die on camera, on the big screen, and it would just leave it at that. He's just dead. And yeah, it would lead into his movies. But that would come at a later date. The whole point of this is to kind of just establish this universe. We don't have to stick with this universe at all. We don't even have to stick with these actors, because there's many stories that we can pull from. And the ones that I would pull from the most will be, Long Halloween for Batman, sure. But I wouldn't go too far along Halloween, because I would want it to still be like a surprise. So I guess we wouldn't necessarily, like, we would want it to be character accurate, but not necessarily comic book accurate, if that makes sense. So we want to get the essence of the characters, but we still want to tell our own stories, because that's the way that we draw in comic book fans, but also keep it fresh and not predictable. By introducing these elements, by introducing these characters, we can bring in a world where neither the comic book person nor the average viewer knows what's going to happen next. That's the key. That's really the key. Because we can have the Elseworld stories. We can have, like, Batman Hush. We can have all these different stories playing out. But what really matters is the core story. Because the Elseworld stories only work when you have an established universe already. So, I think I'm going to have to do this in multiple parts. Because I don't want this to go that long, but I think that this is kind of like the gist of my phase 1. We'll call it phase 1. We can call it phase 1, because I think that this universe would be too big to squeeze into one video, but I'm excited because I'm never going to see it happen, because I highly doubt that this is the direction that they're going in. So, maybe this is just kind of fiction, but that's what I would do. That's kind of what I just said is what I would do to establish the DC universe. So there you go. Comment down below. What do you guys think? What do you think of my vision? Do you guys like the ideas that the Rubyverse has to offer? Comment down below. Leave a like on this video and subscribe for more videos like this, because I plan to make many more discussing the DC universe, discussing everything in between and more. Thank you guys so much for talking about it. I'll see you guys in the future, and peace out, guys. It's been a blast. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.